You might have missed one of the greatest things to happen in fashion in recent years. In amongst the age of microtrends and hyperconsumption has been the rise of something completely in the opposite direction. The appreciation of great clothing design, crazy experimentation, and weird features. Welcome to the insane world of early 2000s performance clothing, techwear before techwear, from the people who originally designed this stuff to the next generation of collectors showcasing it to the world. Why is everyone so obsessed with 20-year-old jackets, and how could enjoying this content be a great way of breaking free from trend cycle madness? This is Analog Synth here, it's time to find out. If you've come across content showcasing early 2000s jackets and other performance clothing, it's pretty easy to see the immediate appeal. Accounts like Constant Practice document some of the weirdest and wildest designs brands have come out with, from bags that transform into jackets to sweaters with 3 arms. The concept of clothing that does stuff or is useful in loads of situations is pretty cool, and I think that's what draws people to techwear or performance fashion in a more general sense. But that's combined here with this kind of inscrutable quality. Experiments which never became the standard, features designed for tech that's no longer common, or weird things that just make you ask, why? Seeing how items are worn or how they work makes for fascinating viewing. It's fun, it's entertaining, and it can teach us a little something about designers or what clothing can do along the way. Something else that I feel really appeals to people is the sense of authenticity. They weren't created with virality or social media in mind because it all predates the social media landscape. It is this pure sense of designer expression and experimentation. Now it's being found again and appreciated for what it is, and that's kind of nice in contrast with all of these marketing campaigns and social media moments that we see elsewhere. Checking out some of these videos, you'll see similar brands popping up again and again, so here are some of the key ones to know. Oakley was huge for experimental sunglasses like the over-the-top. They've integrated tech with glasses in different ways, and they have a whole range of future-focused accessories like their watch lineup, which is some really cool stuff. Nike ACG is now a Gorp-adjacent lifestyle brand with some interesting designs, but in its original form was a boundary-breaking line, integrating tech like Air Vantage into their jackets. Several brands might surprise you, things like Tumi or Porsche Design, and these serve as great reminders that this genre is not about finding the cool, hyped pieces from certain designers, but exploring this kind of experimentation and these kinds of aesthetics and performance elements from wherever they might be found. And there's loads of brands where that's the case. That said, one brand stands out to me as something particularly crucial to my interest: snowboard brand Burton and their experimental line Analog. The inception of this line was all about pushing technical boundaries with the kind of performance that you would need as a snow sports athlete, and that saw the birth of many really interesting fully featured jackets with carrying capacity through the roof. Not to mention futuristic or retro future style, almost serving as proto techwear, and it's no surprise that that's the case. Acronym co-founder and lead designer Errolson Hugh was behind a lot of jackets at this time. Before Acronym was a clothing brand, they were a design consultancy, and thus helped a lot of other brands bring these experimental or technical products to market.
I'm Errolson. I am the co-founder and current creative director of Acronym.
Errolson told me as a brand, Burton were very interested in experimental design and pushing features to the next level.
Greg Dakishin, who was a creative director for Burton at the time, amazing people to work for. Greg had a real sense of irreverence. They went above and beyond in every aspect. We'd send something completely ridiculous over. Product developers that would get their hands on it, and a prototype would come back and would be like, yeah, so the 26 pockets weren't enough. So we added, lights into the hood and, some other ridiculous feature. That jacket actually is called the Spec Ops jacket. That was another Analog one.
Between Errolson's description of Burton Analog and some of this great content, and because I have a duty to make these videos as interesting as possible, I couldn't not try and find something from this line.
The Zeon jacket, obviously from Analog. The Q jacket together with Hiroshi Fujiwara. Even the Apple Burton amp jacket that was had the iPod in it, that was actually made it into one of Steve Jobs' keynotes.
Wow.
Yeah, that was kind of wild. So we ended up designing a lot of stuff for them, like to the degree where I can't remember. So, I'll see the stuff on Instagram like, oh yeah.
I wanted to settle for nothing less than a feature-packed jacket that really epitomizes this early 2000s technical performance style. There were two jackets that stood out to me: the Black Ops and the Zeon. Problem is, 30-year-old snowboarding jackets tend not to be just sitting around on shelves. I needed some advanced searching. In the past, I've used Bai to find and purchase rare clothing from Japan, and since they are very kindly the paid sponsors of this video, that is exactly what I did here. Japanese marketplaces like Yahoo Japan and Mercari are excellent sources for rare clothing and cool brands that are hard to come across in the West, and at great prices right now, partly because of the relative strength of the yen versus other currency. But those sites tend not to be foreigner friendly, and most sellers won't ship internationally, so Bai lets you browse them in your preferred language, place bids, and shop for items by proxy, providing a Japanese address so they can forward items on to you. If you make multiple purchases, you can consolidate those into one package for easy shipping, something I made great use of last year. And I thoroughly recommend throwing in some anime or gaming stuff if you make any clothing purchases. Whatever franchise you like, I guarantee you will find something cool on these marketplaces. And you will genuinely find stuff at far better prices than you'll ever be able to get hold of in the West. In fact, I did a whole video on that topic with Japanese fashion master Reji Casual, so if you're looking for more tips on the best ways to shop Japanese clothing, then definitely check that one out. And even better, you can hit the link in the description and get yourself a 10% off coupon when you create an account. I have used Bai multiple times in the past for buying this kind of clothing, and I think it's a great way to get cool and unique stuff, like this Mizuno Evangelion shirt that I think is really cool and I've never seen anyone else wear. But what of the legendary archival jackets? Well, no Western seller had any of this stuff available, but someone on Yahoo Japan did. A Zeon in pretty perfect condition. Gotta be honest, this one was pretty expensive, but we do it for the culture. Sometimes you gotta pay for the best of the best. And it arrived soon after, really well packaged, and I quickly saw for myself just how full-featured this thing is, plus the attention to detail.
So it's the stretch inserts on the back panel, the use of Hypalon for some of the reinforcements, and then obviously the invisible zips that lead to the cargo pockets, the multi-pocket interior. For me, it's the total package. It's the fact that you do have this incredibly detailed and elaborate design. All of the details in the graphics. There's so many prints and little tiny bits of art on the jacket. I think that also really adds to it. Honestly, any one of those things would be enough to make a cool jacket, but to see them all come together in such a congruent and like harmonious way is, I think, is the most exciting for me. And I think that's, you know, one of the reasons that people still find it fascinating today. It has its own gravity, you know? It feels like you don't have to hear the background to get it. You just see it, you're like, oh, this is a whole thing.
And it's exactly that. The combination of all of these elements that let this still hold up today. And not just a piece of nostalgia or something kind of fun and retro, but something with genuine appeal to fashion fans in 2024. The cut and the feature set put this right at home with a modern snowboard jacket. And that is because of the effort and the creativity that was put into these things.
Greg's brief was very simple. He was like, make me a jacket that's like a Gundam. Rather than do a literal takedown of like style lines or anything like that, we just tried to make something that had the impression of something futuristic and highly technical. And then we went to town on all of the fit and features and materials.
One thing I wondered about though was the relationship between classic and brand new clothing. If you look at a new Burton snowboard jacket, there's a lot of things in common. But you'll have some differences: Gore-Tex, AquaGuard zippers, things like that.
What about Acronym though? Does their early work as a design agency help inform their current output today? I'll come back to that idea, because first I want to discover a little more about this technical sportswear clothing. We're going to go out there and find some stuff for ourselves, and that means that you are coming with me.
So I am here at the Pastimes Vintage. It is a pretty massive hoard of early 2000s sportswear and other extremely cool stuff. We're gonna have a look around. We're gonna interview one of the collaborators, I suppose, creators of this place, and see some of the stuff that he thinks is pretty cool and exciting. Let's see what we can find.
Sure enough, they had some really cool pieces from well-known brands like this Oakley shirt jacket with magnetic placket concealing a big pocket array. But it's also about discovering things you might not know. I caught up with Reji, who's curated hundreds of items for this space.
Hi, my name's Alan. I run shop.alanreji, which is just my name. Obscure pieces from various brands, from like Airwalk to Echo to Stussy, Yoshimiyaki, along those lines, yeah.
Indeed, there was stuff to be discovered I never could have expected. For example, this really weird Miu Miu jacket with a front fastening here that creates a super unique look. Talking to Alan more, it's obvious his interest in this stuff is way beyond buying and selling and into genuine passion for the clothing.
This one's special because this one also turns into like a briefcase. You can just pack into that central zipper and it goes into the lining and it turns into like a briefcase.
But what is it that makes this sort of clothing so fascinating to Alan?
I do love different pocket systems and weird technical details. Clear pouch for your old Nokia, and then also for your cards. A pocket that runs aside, so it's literally your chest becomes the backpack. A late 90s Mandarina duck with the infamous egg cell pocket. When you need more storage, you just expand it out. It's actually patented as well, this kind of pocket. You can really tell that they were a luggage brand. And even the fabrics that they use is just really nice.
Something I really like is how all this stuff intersects with online content. Regardless of your opinions on the effects of short-form content on fashion, I feel like this is a potentially really positive example.
I think it's fantastic. I'm super happy to see it all the time. It's great to know that the stuff resonates still even today. I love it. The videos are great. It's all good fun, I think.
Quick videos showing weird features and documenting rare or unusual clothing is the perfect format for it. Not just from a visual and informational perspective, but because it gives us a way to enjoy this type of clothing without needing to consume it. No one is putting out top 5 archival 2000s jackets you need to buy right now. It's just not about that. It's about the appreciation of cool clothing, and you don't need to be buying all of this stuff to do that. And these videos can bring knowledge and passion about this stuff in a way that simply wouldn't have been possible before.
That's one way this archival clothing can intersect with fashion culture today. Another great thing is how anyone can get involved and find weird and interesting pieces for themselves. The Pastimes highlights just how many different brands and pieces there are which use these performance ideas or have these early 2000s sportswear aesthetics. That said, if you want these standout archival pieces like the Zeon, which have cemented themselves as part of this archival clothing canon, those ones, yeah, they can be a little bit trickier to find.
Luckily, designers are embracing some of the ideas which make this genre great. Let's look at the acronym J120 GTPL. It's a pretty new jacket from last season, and it reminded me of jackets like the Zeon with that multi-pocket array. I also love the color combo here, seemingly rejecting the ultra-modern Techwear look in favor of something that feels more at home in the early 2000s, and to me has more of a retro future flavor. I asked Errolson what he thought about that relationship.
There was no intention to make this, oh, let's do an accurate version of a Zeon jacket or something like that. It does have a relation to the Zeon jacket with the curved cargo pocket zip. It didn't originally in its earlier stages of development, so that pocket evolved over time. And it wasn't until after we were done and somebody else had mentioned it, I was like, oh yeah, it is kind of similar actually. You just sort of arrive at certain shapes and certain locations that work the best for certain situations.
So trying to solve those same kinds of problems has led to similar solutions, but now we have additional technology like the tension zip to throw in there.
So the zipper actually, if you unzip from the top, it works like everyone else's curved zip in that location, but if you unzip from the bottom, then the pleat in the bottom of the pocket expands like a cupboard almost, right? And you can leave it open, you can see inside, and you can arrange things.
Something Acronym will do though is directly reference some of their older products in the creation of new ones.
So the J4 to J111 was a conscious reinterpretation of the original idea. Umit Espeland, one of our designers at Acronym, he had found the EJ4 in the archive and was like, this is amazing, let's do a version of this. And I was like, yeah. Let's try it.
I definitely like the idea that this cool creative clothing isn't purely a lost art, but something that is continually being consciously referenced and iterated upon today. And if you love checking out this early 2000s stuff and you see more and more of it, I'm sure that will help you gain an appreciation for some of the technical features and performance aspect you'll see showing up in clothing today. While talking to Alan, he even mentioned that major streetwear brands buy archive clothing from him, presumably to help inform their future designs. And Louis Holsgrove, another collaborator of the past times who you might recognize from some of this content showcasing the early 2000s sportswear genre, has his own brand, Point Blank, which is all about incorporating some of these aesthetics and performance elements into brand new clothing, really recapturing some of the energy of archival technical gear. Alright, so why should we care about this trend, if you want to call it that, of techwear if you can't actually go down to a shop and buy any of this stuff directly? Well, firstly, I think it's a bit of an antidote to micro trends and hyperconsumption that you might be growing tired of on social media. Instead, it's about that shared interest and the unearthing and the discovery of all of these interesting things.
And when you think of Calvin Klein, you don't really think of stuff like this, where it's got almost a backpack integrated into the back. It's about like looking at these brands, so like Airwalk, Calvin Klein, Echo, and then finding like alternative styles from them.
If anything, I'd say it's considered more cool to build that knowledge and passion for this genre of clothing and use that to find things for yourself which other people might not have found out about before.
There's whole brands from that era that I didn't know anything about myself.
If you're into this style, you don't have to go for Oakley or you don't have to go for Nike. If you look at any brand and just search deep enough, you'll probably find some mad tech wear that's like never been done before. That's kind of like my favorite part of buying for the shop, because I'm trying to find those pieces that no one else has seen.
Related to that, it helps you get excited about clothing as objects of art, design, function, not just status and consumption. I personally find the construction of clothing and the kind of things it can do really interesting, so I'm really happy to see more people gain enthusiasm for that and enjoy seeing that in different ways. It also helps teach us the language of design and historical context of clothing, and that helps us better articulate why we like the clothing we do. And brands have picked up on this. Oakley and Nike ACG, well, they are re-releasing some of these archival things that people have recently found to be so cool. That by itself is pretty strong evidence that people really like this stuff.
While trends are not the point of this type of clothing, it's worth remembering that a lot of this stuff is in some way kind of on trend. I mean, Gopcore and outdoor fashion had their big moment. Techwear certainly has its niche. Now we have this quiet outdoor thing that's apparently going on. Not to mention, in a general sense, people are favoring the more relaxed cuts, which were exemplary of early 2000 stuff.
You know, the current wider silhouette is very similar to the snowboarding silhouette from back then.
So there is a lot to like here from a trend or current fashion perspective.
Much of this stuff maybe fell out of favour in the 2010s, but now I think is considered cool and good looking. And just as good a reason as any, it's fun to watch. I don't think you need more of an excuse than that. People put so much time and energy developing high level knowledge about niche clothing just to make us smile, and I think that's pretty cool. Recently, accounts like Greater Goods have taken this to the next level by creating new experimental pieces from scratch with the vibe of this kind of archival performance clothing.
Hoping you've enjoyed talking through this world as much as I have. It's been really fun discovering some of this stuff. If you did, hey, please do give the video a like. It massively helps out the channel. Huge thanks to Alan and Errolson, of course, for being invaluable to this video. Couldn't have done it without their help. And don't forget to check out Bai as a way of getting awesome clothing like this from Japan. Until next time, I'll see you then.
Was it expensive or was it okay?
I think it cost me like 500,
Oh,
which is, you know, it's okay.